Well, joining me now is a public affairs analyst and former chairman Amuodofin local government, Ayodele Adewale. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, before the inauguration, the president did an interview where he outlined, spoke about a lot of things, but Nigerians want him to focus on certain areas like they rightly pointed out in that report that we saw before you came on. For you, where would you want the president to begin in this administration?
Well, I want him to continue with security. The security infrastructure must be rebranded and reinforced very well. And of course, infrastructure, road infrastructure, rail infrastructure, and to also open up for a lot of investors to come into the aviation industry. And of course, not to forget about technology, because with technology, we can create a lot of jobs. And it means that government must have to give more incentives, and of course, open the economy more for the private sector to come in.
Now, in the aspect of security, the president said in that interview that he's going to ensure that the police and the judiciary are very effective. What categorically do you think he should do to ensure that happens this time around? Because if the country is not secure, we can't open it up for foreign direct investment and investors.
Well, definitely, the police must have to work more intelligence gathering, and the various security apparatus that we have must learn to share intelligence and learn to trust more on within their various agencies. The police also must have to recruit more men to reinforce all of their workings, and in the area of recruitment, they must make sure that, I've often said that the basic recruiting level should be OND, because world over now, technologies is being deployed to tackle insecurity, and particularly gathering of information, and of course following some unscrupulous tendencies that are likely to create flash of crisis all over the place.
For the aspect of the economy, you know, that there were several, you know, the government in its first term came up with several ways or policies, you know, to ensure that, you know, the economy, it's vibrant, and then there was this diversification agenda by the government. In your view, should the government continue in that light?
The government must continue to diversify the economy, and they must create waivers. If you want investors to come, you must waive a lot of things, particularly the import tax and all of these things. You must waive it. Look at what Ghana is doing right now. Ghana is creating a lot of waivers, and those waivers are part of what will attract those investors to come. And in the aspect of JV, government could also create land as their own counterpart support for investors to come. By the time you give them a lot of leverage, we have the right market for the investors to come in, produce, and of course, our people will consume it, and all of that.
All right, Ayodele Adewale, thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
Joining me now is a public affairs analyst and former chairman, Amuodofin local government area, Ayodele Adewale. It's good to have you join us right now.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let me ask, you have been working at the grassroots with a lot of Nigerians and all of that. You feel their pulse. From what they say, how would you rate the last 4 years of this administration when it comes to what Nigerians are feeling from the government at the federal level, at the state level, and all of that?
Well, considering the high expectation that the people had and all of that, and considering the hurdles and hiccups that the administration had to go through, I would score them very much above average, very much above average. I mean, if we've had a National Assembly that was that's very cooperative, and if we have not gone into recession, the government would have met about 60% of the expectation of the Nigerian people. But still, they were able to come out of recession. They were able to meander around the politicking within the Nigerian Senate, and of course, some form of hiccups in the House of Reps.
What areas of carryover of issues from the previous dispensation to the new one do you think that it has to be, the priority has to be attached for them to be tackled for Nigerians?
There must be more priority on energy, provision of energy. like one of the people did say. And of course, security is very, very important. They've done quite well in the area of security. The insurgents have been degraded. The Zamfara crisis too have been well curtailed. But they need to also do more in the area of kidnapping and all of that. Looking at the pace in which the administration is going to go right now, within the next first quarter of this administration, we will see a lot of difference and a jet speed in carrying out their duties.
If you look at the records of what the First Republic was able to achieve after independence, before the first military coup, there was a lot of economic activities here and there. Now, if you fast forward to where we are now, when it comes to states working together, Lagos and KBA have been commended a lot of times and so on. But what do you see when it comes to deliberate strategy by governments at the federal or even the state level going into new fronts of business for the prosperity of their citizens and indigents?
If that is to take place at the pace that we want, definitely the Nigerian Constitution must be reworked. We must rework the Constitution. We must also put a lot of emphasis on road and rail infrastructure. You did mention about the First Republic. It was very easy to bring in goods from the north to the south using the rail line, and this actually speed up the economic relationship amongst regions and all whatnot until the Civil War came and a lot of bandwagon did set in. The administration is also looking towards that. A lot of rail infrastructure is being put up. And I think at the end of this year, many of them will be optimally put into use, and you'll be able to see a lot of relationship among states. Even the lake rice you talked about, it's quite difficult to bring those goods down to Lagos because of the kind of roads that we have now. But when the rail are fully put in place, you see states coming together to work, especially in the West. Remember that during the twilight of the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, they did work a lot to make sure that there's regional integration, especially in the Southwest. So you are going to see more of this regional integration.
Do you think that is the way to go for even other regions now? Because it seems like the federal government is really overwhelmed by all the activities and the burden of responsibility it has to carry.
That's the best way to go. I don't have to bother myself on things that you have mastered on. All I need to do is master on my own strength. And then we come together, to interrelate, since we are running a federation. And since it's like that, the best is everybody should just build on their capacity.
All right. Ayodele Adewale, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Right.
Well, joining me now is a public affairs analyst and former chairman, Ward of local government, Ayodele Adewale. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, some have said that the president's intention can only be reflected or would be reflected in the persons he employs into his cabinet. And the president at some point said that he hasn't seen in his first term that he hasn't seen anyone he is to drop. So would you want the president to retain the same cabinet?
Well, that is at the discretion of the president. But
based on their performance?
Based on their performance, they've all performed credibly well, considering the realities that confronts them. But again, they can do better. They can do better, and the president should also walk beyond the dragnet to making sure that more people get involved in order to speed up the rate of service.
Now, on the aspect, one other aspect, the president talked about creating about 20 million jobs in the areas of agriculture, construction, services, and transportation, that this aspect would drive the economy. Are these the areas that would definitely drive the economy? Because in the areas of transportation, you look at the state of road, the road network, and then in the area of agriculture, we are still practicing subsistence farming.
Well, I will start from road. I've been privileged recently to drive across Nigeria, and I can see that the administration have done very well in provision of roads. And when you talk about infrastructural provision, it attracts a lot of jobs, both the professional and unprofessional skilled workers that come on board. But still, in order to improve on this economy, agriculture is also a very good area to focus in. You have to deploy a lot of mechanization towards this particular process. And we do have competent people that can do this, but nonetheless, we have to open up our windows also to attract people who have done better all over the world. Taking, for instance, the dairy products and some other processing manufacturing industry. This knowledge is very useful if we can attract them into our space.
Another aspect that Nigerians want the government to really look into is the area of electricity as well as insecurity. Definitely,
if any economy is to improve, electricity must be provided. 24 hours of electricity. What I would advise the government to do is focus on more on reworking the framework that allowed the players right now to come into our space. A lot of them are not performing. They're not performing. They have underperformed, and as such, state governments should be allowed to come in and play in this industry. For instance, Lagos State actually started the drive post 99, but again, the federal government restricted the Bola Tinubu administration from piloting this process. So if it is well opened now for more people to come in, then definitely our system will improve.
All right, Ayodele Adewale, thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.